is in case CR 187017, case caption State of Nevada plaintiff versus Robert Edward Ross defendant. The record today will reflect the presence of the defendant, Mr. Ross, who is appearing via Zoom from the Humboldt County Detention Center due to COVID-19 restrictions. Mr. Ross, are you able to hear and see me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, I know.
Very good, thank you. If at any time there's any difficulty with the audio or video, immediately notify detention staff and they will contact my chambers. Understand?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, and you're represented today by Mr. Mathew Stermitz, who's appearing here in the courtroom. You should see him on the camera as well. And Mr. Kevin Pasquale with the Humboldt County District Attorney's Office. I'm trying to find you, Mr. Pasquale. Turn that one right in front of you, that iPad, so that it's, because I think Mr. Haas was in the other seat. There you go. So there's Mr. Pasquale as well on behalf of the state. We also have appearing remotely today Ms. Akuma with the Division of Parole and Probation, and Officer Hill also with the Division of Parole and Probation, so you should see them on your screen as well. We're here today for a pretrial conference. This matter is set for a 5-day jury trial to begin on October 19, 2020. I wanted to inform counsel first of some of the court's activities in relation to not just Mr. Ross's trial, but in the month of October, I was originally had set or scheduled 4 weeks of jury trials. 2 of those were civil trials. The first one was scheduled to begin on October 5th for the 2 weeks immediately preceding Mr. Ross's trial. And then the week after Mr. Ross was another civil case for 1 week. And so I recently took some of my staff and one of the deputy clerks from the clerk's office, and we went down to the Humboldt County Convention Center. We looked at what they had available for rooms to conduct jury trials, because all of these were jury trials, 2 civil, 1 criminal. And they walked us throughout both buildings. We, I think, had a pretty good plan in place for spaces that were big enough to accommodate groups of what I'll say less than 50 at a time, due to the governor's restrictions on meeting sizes. And then shortly after our visit, also I've had some conversations with Deputy Goodell through with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office about security and some measures that we would likely take to ensure that there's only a single point entry and some other things of that sort for any jury trial that we have there. And we also put all of these dates, the entire month of October, on their calendar at the convention center. I've asked Ms. Formby to come in today too, just in case I forgot something that we talked about with the staff at the convention center. Now, since that visit though, the 2 civil cases have both been continued. And that was, I had a similar conversation with the attorneys at a pretrial conference just like this, where I explained to them what we had done and what accommodations we were making, and then they chose to, by stipulation, to continue those trials. And I'm not forcing this issue. I mean, I'm just making it available. And so they both have continued their civil trials. One other thing that we've done, and I've provided this to both the clerk's office, and I have copies here. I have to show them. I'll give you these. Can you give one to Mr. Stermitz and one to Mr. Pasquale? We have not modified this, but this is a packet that I received from Lyon County, or the 3rd Judicial District. Information that they provide both to their bailiffs and information that goes out to prospective jurors when jurors are summoned about the jury selection process under COVID-19 and I have not modified these to the 6th Judicial District Court yet, but if we do reach the point where we're ready to summons a jury, I would likely create a packet similar to this. Of course, I might encourage some input from counsel in those instructions to both, well, primarily to the jury veneer. But I wanted to give you that. There is just today I received, and I haven't had a chance to review it, so I didn't hand it out, was a packet that been developed in the 4th Judicial District, Elko County. I do not have the information from Las Vegas, although I did hear that it was in the news this week that they're starting jury trials. But I just don't believe that the way in which they may be conducting jury trials in Las Vegas is, is probably comparable or comparable to us, because they have such a huge courthouse there, whereas a little different here. I want to assure everyone that I'm not looking at doing the jury trial here in this courtroom. I just do not believe we would have enough space to accommodate the social distancing requirements, and that's why we made this inquiry at the convention center. So I just want to let you all know that I've had these discussions and have done a little bit of this legwork in anticipation of these trials. With that, counsel.
Your Honor, similar to your still litigants, Mr. Stermitz and I had discussed a potential stipulation to continue this case, and I think that's still out there. I think, in addition to that, though, I think our office, and I assume Mr. Stermitz's office as well, would like to go down to the convention center and see how you propose setting things up, so we have it in our mind and can make maybe suggestions that may or may not improve it, but we'd certainly like to see logistically how we intend to do these trials down there prior to committing to one down there.
Okay, I think that's probably a fair request. The one thing I guess that I would want to maybe make part of the record though today, Mr. Stermitz, if that would be your request too, I don't know that I can make those accommodations to have Mr. Ross transported to do that walkthrough with us. I think if we were going to do that, I'd want to make sure it's clear on the record that it would be maybe the court staff with counsel, just for the purpose of showing you the anticipated layout of a courtroom constructed and actually a courtroom might be separate from the rooms that we would use for jury selection, because there are some bigger rooms that would accommodate pools of potential jurors, and then maybe once the jury is seated to move that into another room, which would still accommodate social distancing and the like. But I'm happy to do that if that's something you'd like to do. I guess if we were going to do that, we may even want to do that today, because I know that we have, and I guess we have a little bit of time here. We could probably schedule something like that, and then have another pretrial conference, say in a week from today. That still may afford the clerk's office sufficient time to summons the jury, because that's not until the 19th of October, but it doesn't give us a lot of time. We're going to need to make these decisions rather quickly in order to give the clerk time to summons. Do you all, I know that I'm sharing some of this with you today, and you may not have been aware that the court has made these arrangements, and I was doing it for other trials too. If you all would like some time to process this, I'm happy to give you a little more time to do so.
I think, there was this discussion about a stipulation, and I certainly am going to stipulate to continue, and not that I'm uncooperative, I'll certainly go down and view it, but my best guess is I will be filing a motion to continue the trial if the stipulation is not to fruition. And I'm doing that because I think that compelling jurors to come and sit at a jury trial where an individual has been accused of a crime and is facing prison time may have a deleterious effect on my client's right to a fair trial and unbiased jurors. I think the hostility, I'm a germaphobe, and if people think like me, we're going to get a lot of jurors who are going to be very angry at being compelled to come. Now, I understand that at some point court business has to move forward, and it's going to, but those are my thoughts. I'm prepared to stipulate, I'm prepared to motion to continue if the stipulation doesn't come through, and thirdly, I certainly would go tour the facility because at some point we're going to be doing this, and there's always the possibility that testing procedures develop that allow instantaneous identification of people who are carrying the COVID virus, and to the extent that that's coming down in a month or 2 months, it just seems silly to me to push forward. But I understand everybody's point, and I'm certainly willing to go look at the facility. And I think that certainly is a wise choice compared to trying to have it here in this small confined space that's closed, and as far as aerial transmission could go, could very much end up as a super spreader event that could spread out into the community and causing untold havoc on people's health. And I looking at this 3rd District Court memo, I'm somewhat troubled by the letter to the jurors, which talks about the court will individually consider high-risk factors relating to people's requests to get off due to COVID. And I think anybody who's ears been to the track is realizing healthy people are dying from the COVID, and it's not just people on their last leg. And I question these judges' ability to comprehend, make the decision that we can move forward with this. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
And Mr. Stermitz, that's not my work product. I just wanted to share with you as one example of something that has been used. Obviously, before I would use anything like that, we would make modifications that might be appropriate for us, and I would consider input in that as well. Mr. Pasquale?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I may have been misunderstood by Mr. Stermitz. I was not withdrawing from our stipulation to continue, and so a motion would not be necessary on his behalf. I was suggesting going down and looking at those facilities in addition to that stipulation.
Okay. Mr. Ross, have you been able to hear and understand the conversation that's occurring here in the courtroom today?
Sure.
I would also, for purposes...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear his answer. Did he say yes, or did he say
I heard...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also think whether it be this pretrial conference or any pretrial conference that may be coming up in the near future is and I say this in kind of somewhat response to Mr. Stermitz, your concerns about that letter. I do think it's going to require some discussions in preparation for trial as to the jury selection process, and not only maybe the questions that may be asked of jurors that may give rise to a potential challenge for cause, but I think it also has to have some discussions about the protocols that we follow. For example, if we're going to be in any space, we're going to be wearing masks. We're going to be expecting jurors to wear masks. We're going to, and I think that's a requirement. I think that we have to make accommodations for witnesses with probably a plexiglass protections to allow them to take their masks off, but do that with sufficient social distancing so that it's not, the potential of being at least in an appropriate distance away from jurors and attorneys. I think we're going to have to talk about extra alternates or additional alternates, because I would anticipate that every day, just like coming into this courthouse, temperatures are going to be taken. And if somebody has a spike in their temperature, we lose a juror.
Or maybe
We run the risk of losing a lawyer. We run the risk of losing a judge. And I don't mean losing in the context of anyone dying, but I mean, if anybody is ill, it could have an impact on that trial, regardless of what trial it is, whether it's Mr. Ross's or a civil case. And I've explained this to the attorneys in those cases as well. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, and that's why I think these pretrial conferences are going to take on a little bit different level of significance. And so I appreciate that we're having some of this discussion today, and I really do encourage you, and I will have Ms. Formby work on a time where we can go take a look at those facilities, hopefully to address some of them. It's going to, we're also going to be looking at things like using a combination of the video conferencing equipment in connection with the live participation, because we may not be able to accommodate a significant audience, bystanders, observers. That may have to be broadcast. And we have the capability of doing that. We did that in a big case here recently where it's set up on Zoom to be broadcast as I'll call it a webinar feature, so that we don't have a bunch of people just coming in and milling around the courtroom just to watch. They can watch it from the comforts of wherever they log in at, but they don't have any ability to participate. They're really limited. They just get to join and watch because it is a public trial. So these are all things that I think are important for any of us, all of us, clerk's office, the security, court staff, you all as counsel to think about, and as we look at starting jury trial. But I think, Mr. Stermitz, you make a great point. The process at some point has to continue. I have been as adamant about as anyone, I think, in this courthouse about wearing a mask. And I've been one of the probably lesser vocal critics of those that don't, unless it's here in the courtroom. And I don't know that it's my business to go out there and police the mask wearing, but if you're in this courtroom, as you all know, you're wearing a mask. And so I've been like you, Mr. Stermitz. I don't know that I want to say, I think you used the term germaphobe. I don't know that I'm quite that level, but I think that I've taken the precautions that are expected of us who serve the public in Humboldt County to follow the rules with regards to wearing masks and social distancing as best we can. So I'm not asking any of you or any prospective juror to ignore the requirements. Absolutely not. We just have to learn how to work within these parameters. So let's do this today. Mr. Ross, just for you and for the attorneys, I'm going to continue the pretrial for 1 week from today. If there's a stipulation forthcoming, so be it. I would like to try to have my staff set something up with the public defender's office and the district attorney's office to go down to the convention center, regardless of this case, and take a look at what we looked at. And so we'll try to set that up even before the continued pretrial on the 29th. And you're going to have to give me a time because I know I have other things on that calendar.
I could probably do like 11:30 because you have a meeting.
11:30 on the 29th. If there's a stipulation, I'm going to vacate that pretrial.
Our computer screen has changed. Is everything still recording? And
Yep, you're good. Let me see. Where'd Mr. Ross is there. Mr. Stermitz, you're there. We got
there's here that Ms. McDonald was there.
Yeah, Ms. McDonald, you're still there. I've got the clerk still there, and Division of Parole and Probation. Okay, Thank you all. We'll be in recess for today. Unless there are any, before I go off the record, any questions?
No.
Okay, we're going to go off the record. Thank you all.